You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. Welcome to Volatility Views, the premier program for volatility traders. Each week, we'll take a deep dive into the world of volatility with in-depth analysis, trading activity reviews, strategy breakdowns, cutting-edge education, and much more. We'll also bring you exclusive conversations with the traders, researchers, and asset managers who are reshaping the volatility landscape. If it involves volatility, then you'll find it on Volatility Views. And now, it's time to take a deep dive into the world of volatility. It's time for Volatility Views.
All right, everybody. That music means it is Friday. It is noon Central. It is 1 p.m. Eastern. Do you know what's going on in the vol markets? Well, let's find out together, shall we? It is time once again for Volatility Views, the premier program for volatility traders. My name, of course, Mark Longo from the THE, OptionsInsider.com, as well as from the network upon which so many of you have been just binging all week long. Keep binging. We don't mind. There's more bandwidth where that came from. And if you like what you hear, throw a star, a like, a comment, whatever your platform lets you do. It does help new people continue to discover the content, and new people discovering it all the time. We love you all. Welcome to all the new listeners out there. And, of course, if you want more content in your lives, you don't want your broadcast week to end with Volatility Views. You want to come back for some fun and a little bit with options oddities. We got some fun popping off. We got some I think we have some trade sagas to discuss, which will be fun. Only one place to go to get in on all that action, theoptionsinsider.com/pro, or for you cool fancy kids out there, /secret club. That'll get you in past the velvet rope, past the bouncer, for options oddities, our pro Q&As. We had Mr. VIXologist on earlier this week on pro Q&A. Man, we've just been tackling vol from every possible direction out there. So if you like that kind of thing, and you're listening to Vol Views, so I'm guessing you probably do, check it out, theoptionsinsider.com/pro, the place to go to learn more. As we go around the horn, see who's joining us this week. First, joining us from the Southern Volatility Mecca, and next week it will be the Volatility Mecca because it will be the home of the Risk Management Conference. Of course, we're talking about Austin, where we are joined once again by the greasiest of meatballs, Mr. Mark Sebastian from OptionPit.com. Mr. Meatball, welcome back to the show. I hear you have generously offered your backyard for a big barbecue for the conference.
I can't wait to have all my buddies over for a big smoke some brisket here and in Circle C Ranch.
There you go. Good times, listeners. Maybe we'll have some fun reports coming from RMC. I won't be there next week, but we have a lot of people on the network who will be, so should be fun. Now, speaking of people who will be at RMC next week, we are also joined by another attendee who will be in Mark's backyard eating some brisket. He is the once future and now present, because he has the paper, Dr. VIX, Mr. Russell Rhoads, now holding court over there at the KELLEY School of Business and corrupting young minds for generations to come. Mr. Rhoads, welcome back to the show, sir.
Now, you know that they don't allow me around undergrads anymore, right?
Oh, I thought you did some undergrads. No more?
Not anymore, so I'm not allowed to corrupt any minds.
Ah, I see. That makes sense.
The running joke is, since the incident, he's not allowed to teach undergrads. There's no incident. It's like, but you should see the look on people's faces sometimes when I say that.
Oh, there are incidents, listeners. Don't worry. We'll talk about it.
Yeah, but that's not why I'm not teaching undergrads.
There you go. So no longer corrupting still young minds, but not the youngest of minds, Mr. Rhodes, as we keep on rolling right on into the volatility review.
It's time to break down the latest developments in the volatility trading world. It's time for the Volatility Review.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Vol Review, the portion of the show where we break down the week that was and indeed still is from a vol trading, trending, and analysis, and all sorts of fun perspectives. And coming into the end of the week, we got another topsy-turvy one here, listeners. The day started off looking like we were going to be trending to the red, the S&P bouncing off pretty much the level where it is right now, right around 43 and a quarter. And then we're trying to rally recently, and then right back down again. We saw vol popping pretty hard. In fact, right before showtime, we were looking at a VIX at almost 19 3/4. We were threatening a 20 handle. The logins might have been in the offing for this episode. We have since retreated from there, listeners, down about a point. Still up a little over a point. We're at about an 18 3/4 when we kicked off the show. Puts us up 1.15 points. Of course, the major markets are still mixed, even though it looks like we're trending in the red. The S&P off about exactly 0.5%. The NASDAQ off a little over 1, about 1.15%. And the Dow is still managing to struggle and stay aloft, up about 0.1%. So another one of those strange days out there, listeners. Let's throw small caps into the mix as well, because they got, I think the technical term was annihilated yesterday. And they're still coming for it again today, off about 0.75% out there in small caps land. So it's mostly red out there, just the Dow managing to buck the trend. We did have some earnings out there this morning, so we are kicking off earnings season yet again with some of the financials. So some of that also weighing in on this varied market we have to kick off the session. Again, vol still up, but not quite at the lofty highs that it was just a few minutes ago, quite frankly. So the worm turning out there quite a bit. All that is a long way around to saying, yeah, vol also pretty high, listeners. Back up over triple digits, a 104 right now, up 11 points from where it was this time last week. And again, I just told you vol came in about a point right before the show. So that shows you vol is frothy out there right now, listeners. Let's go around the horn to get everyone's sense of this mad week. We're up, we're down, we're left, we're right. Dogs and cats living together out there this week. Mr. Rhodes, we will start with you, sir. What is catching your eye in a very topsy-turvy week?
The topsy-turvy week, the number one thing, and it's killing me. When's my favorite index, the Russell 2000, going to start doing some catching up? And I know that's not exactly volatility, but you mentioned small caps, so I'm jumping on that one.
I did. I opened the door for you, sir.
I am wrong so far. Back when the S&P was outperforming by about 12%, I shorted S&P and went long Russell. And now the year-to-date underperformance is over 15%. We got to catch a bid in the small caps, or my kid's not gonna be able to spend the full 4 years at GW in DC.
I hear great things about your local community college, sir. They offer some.
College of DuPage is awesome, and we may have a difficult conversation over the holidays unless this trade straightens itself out.
Has she shown any interest in, let's say, hairdressing school? Anything along those lines?
Who knows? She wants to be a journalist. She wants to crack open the world.
Oh, a journalist. Yeah. The highest paying of careers these days. So many of those jobs lying around these days. She's about a decade or two past the prime of that. But we shall discuss that another time. But yeah, small caps getting a whooping. Any thoughts on S&P or VIX or anything along those lines, sir?
No, I got shaken out of my S&P short, which I'm really upset about when we made a new low just a few weeks ago. But the way VIX is holding up right now, I feel a lot better about my the short S&P leg than the long Russell 2000 leg of my fourth quarter spread trade, or the G.I. Joe with the Kung Fu grip spread
Russell,
trade.
You'll actually love the trade that I did in as kind of my short position, because I'm with you, but I don't trust this market, so I'm never going to just go naked short or have a hedge on. I think you'll like this. I bought the when the ETF was down when SPY was down at 423, I bought the 410 390 put spread for Nove. I paid $3.04, and then I traded it delta neutral. So I bought 600 shares of SPY against it. And then when SPY got to 437, I sold half my stock. And so now that it's starting to pull back, I'm actually short gamma. Or short delta and long a bunch of gamma. So I'm going to be looking to potentially buy some stock here. But that's kind of the approach I've been taking on my shorts. I've got a similar position in Apple and a few other ones. You kind of have to be delta neutral, but then lean on the option gamma to work in your favor.
No, that's awesome. That's you're doing better than I am. That's for darn sure.
Not my goal. Not trying to.
No, I'm always happy. I've worked at trading firms where people would root for themselves and then they would root against the guy sitting next to them.
I have
just
too.
Horrible.
I
don't do that anymore. Karma's a nightmare, and I'm avoiding it. And I always admit when I'm wrong. That's why I don't do more media.
Does seem like the indicators conspired against you, Mr. Rhodes. We just kissed. Yeah. What was it, 12 handle you wanted to close at in VIX? Just got there briefly, and that was just enough to shake you out. And that was it. So they did kind of conspire against you. So the market gods not smiling upon you. Mr. Meatball, you mentioned one of your trades you have going on. It's obviously been a topsy-turvy week. We came into this week, a lot of people maybe were expecting a little bit of vol, a little bit of downside in the broad markets. We got that ever so briefly. Then for most of the rest of the week until really yesterday, we saw just nothing but not just green, but explosive green. And they just came for vol with both hands, just cut the knees out from all volatility. And now we're kind of seeing it restored here towards the latter portion of the week. So a very tumultuous week from a vol perspective, sir. What was catching your eye out there this week?
Yeah, for sure. So really, this all started yesterday midday when there was a really bad bond auction. That sent markets reeling. At one point, we were down 50. We're now below the lows from Thursday. And even though we're down $25, that does not mean that the VIX should be up 3.35 points right now and trading over 20. We are in the midst of a major vol spike, a major fear spike. I think it's around the Middle East. Oil is exploding. Oil stocks are exploding. Little strength in retail, but it's primarily just oil names, and the bank earnings were good today, but VIX is just going kind of parabolic. VIX futures are going, and I know we'll get to them in a second. VIX futures are rallying at a real incredible rate. The timing here with October coming up, you're getting, if you want to be long volatility and you want that kind of direct exposure to vol right now, the October future is tracking the volatility index at about a 90% beta. So you're getting a real good move using VIX futures to trade in and around this huge vol spike that we've got going right now.
Speaking of the futures, let's get out there, listeners. Kind of a weird setup. Like we said, vol whipping all over the place. As we were kicking off the show, we had vol frothy, juicy again. That front future up about 1.35 points, and the no future up about 1.15 or so points out there. Still, the no future trading above the front month. You don't see that too often. So weird times afoot out there on the term structure, listeners. And as you can probably guess, now that we're looking a little bit frothier out there, we do get to that 20 handle a lot faster. In fact, you don't have to wait all the way till March or April anymore to break a 20 handle. In fact, as we started the show, the Jan future was exactly at a 20.00. So just to begin next year, we're already looking at a 20 handle. That's been that way for a while. They have been pricing in more vol towards the middle or end of Q1 of next year, and now that's just moving even closer as vol continues to be frothy. Mr. Rhodes, we'll start with you, sir. What is catching your eye out there in the land of the volatility futures?
I'm really surprised that the future is right there in line with it. It's kind of unusual that the October future would be, basically at parity with the spot index when you're getting the kind of moves that you're getting right now. You only got 2 days left on those October futures, and they do track very closely when you only have a few days left to expiration. But it's like the the volatility traders are split 50-50 on what's going to happen early next week. If you've got enough people that are willing to take the other side and keep the future in line with the index, they're not particularly concerned about something blowing up over this weekend. I don't share that sentiment. I am a little, those of us that have been around since like 2008, 2009, and remember, the weekend risk that we would deal with more often than not, it didn't come true. But you were always bracing when over the weekend, you're bracing when Sunday night, everything starts opening again. And I feel like this is going to be one of those weekends. Wouldn't be surprised if the future finishes the day at a premium relative to the index and in backwardation. Just because to me, it feels very, very difficult to be short volatility over this weekend.
Yeah. And Russell, there's, just for giggles, I bought a 20-25 call spread for Wednesday, and they sold to me for 60 cents. I mean, VIX is over 20. I was kind of shocked that they were willing to sell it to me at, that the 20 calls were less than $1, but they were pretty, like you said, they're feeling pretty calm about this incredible increase in volatility right now.
Well, they annihilated vol earlier this week, just at a ridiculous, impressive level out there. And then, of course, putting it back on almost equally as quickly to end the week and now coming off again. It is definitely intriguing times. Mr. Meatball, sir, in addition to getting some upside at bargain prices, what's catching your eye out there in the vol surface this week, sir?
Yeah, I mean, it's been kind of fluctuating between flat and in kind of a contango to kind of in backwardation. It's been kind of, you and I have been talking about this. It's been fluctuating for, a good 2 weeks. And today, a lot of those chickens are starting to come to roost. It's interesting that today is Friday the 13th. But some of those chickens are starting to come to roost, and you do really have some really interesting movement. VIX is 20, the OCC future is 1940. NOVA is trading above December. So you have a just really funky curve right now, kind of throwing your hands up in the air and saying, we don't know what's going to happen here. But just the total outperformance of VIX relative to the index, I think, is the piece that you have to pay attention to. And, we come in on Monday, and there's the potential VIX could be 17.5 when we open, or we could see vol go to 30. This is this is one of those moments where, the market looks like it's starting to decide on what it wants to do. Just really interesting trading today. Kind of fascinated to see how things play out.
Fascinating indeed. Let's keep on rolling out to the land of VIX options. Are things looking fascinating out there, listeners? And spoiler alert, the answer is yes. Things are fascinating, explosive. Pick your adjective. It probably applies, unless it's sleepy or quiet, because that's not what we're seeing out there today. Already, listeners, we're not even halfway through volatility views. We're already north of 1 million contracts in VIX land right now. 1.1 million contracts on the tape. So, yeah, today is going to be, it's already a banger, listeners, but looking even more robust than usual. Usually this is where we top out for the day on a busy day, and we're already there, not even halfway through the show. So the game is afoot out there in VIX options today. This week, as well, as you might expect, things looking more robust. The ADV soaring another 81,000 contracts this week. VIX now putting up 917,000 contracts a day. Again, things are popping off when VIX is threatening 1 million contracts a day. That's a lot of paper, listeners. So a lot going on out there in the realm of VIX options. Let's look really quickly and see what are the size positions. What's open for size out there in VIX land right now? Well, luckily for you, we can all find out together here on the show. Cost you 226,000 contracts to break into the top 10 in VIX land right now. By the way, there are 8 calls and 2 puts in our top 10 this week, listeners. So we're still hanging out at that ratio we have been for many months now. It doesn't seem like anybody really is too enthused about opening size puts in VIX land, and haven't been for some time, which is interesting. Number 10, 226,000 of the Jan 47 halves. Number 9, 229,000 of the D's 45. So bottom two, listeners, and we're already back in it. 47 halves and 45s. Number 8, 245,000 of the D's 19s. The, dare I say it, normal, reasonable D's 19s. Number 7, 255,000 of the OC 25s. Number 6, 258,000 of the Meatballs favorite, the OC 20s. Number 5, right back at it, 273,000 of the Nove 47 halves. So some people really have an axe to grind on that 47 half strike, listeners. Number 4, our first of two puts, 278,000 of the Nove 17 put. Number 3, our second and final put in our top 10 this week, 289,000 of the OC 15 puts. I do love how they're always back-to-back, the put positions. Number 2, 314,000 of the D's 40s. And the number 1 size position in VIX options right now, 321,000 of the D's 35s. Looks like some D's vertical action at work out there in VIX land. Before I break down the tsunami of paper that's gone up this week, you know what we have to do, listeners. It's that time. Time for everyone's favorite jingle. Yes, it is time for Russell's Weekly Rundown.
Now, Russell's Weekly Rundown.
And you know we have to play it twice, listeners. So here we go. Round 2.
Now, Russell's Weekly Rundown.
The song's so nice, we have to play it twice. All right, Mr. Rhodes, sir, what do you have in store for us? What caught your eye on the weekly VIX front, sir?
A lot early in the week going on in the October 11th options that have gone off the board with a settlement of 16.66. Just the most evil week ever, isn't it? But starting with Monday, in a bunch of lots, somebody sold about 1,900, somewhere between 1,900 and 2,000 of the VIX October 11th 18 puts. They did them at prices anywhere from 25 cents to 45 cents. The average was about 34 cents. This appears to be the exit of a trade that was put on in the middle of the previous week. So I'm going back to a previous week for some weeklies, but it looks like somebody paid about 59 cents for these same options and then turned around, because it's almost the exact same size, and turned around and sold them for 34 cents on Monday, probably because of the news surprise that we got over the weekend. They're like, I'm going to be short into October 11th settlement, and VIX spiked a bit on them. So it looks like they salvaged something with this trade, though. On Tuesday, just a October 11th call spread. Somebody sold the October 11th 17 calls, bought the 19 calls, took in a whopping 22 cents. Looks like they held it to that 1666 settlement price. So they made a whopping 22 cents times 163 times. Things started to move a little bit farther out the calendar on Wednesday since those other options expired. And also next week is standard expiration. So it's difficult to do this on the Wednesday, Thursday, Friday before standard expiration, but there's still a lot going on. Someone bought and this is a nice trade, with VIX at 1664. Somebody bought the November 1st 18 calls, paid $1.13 for those, and sold the 21 calls for 64 cents. They paid 49 cents for this trade. They get a break even at 18.49. We're well above that right now. And the maximum potential profit on this guy is about $2.51 if we're in the low 20s. Also on Wednesday, using the October 25th options, somebody took a bearish outlook. They sold the October 25th 20 calls for 52 cents. They bought the 23 calls for 36 cents, took in a whopping 16.6. VIX was at 1652 at that time. It looks like this trade is still on, but I'll bet they're sweating a little bit over this one, even though they got a couple of weeks to go. Also on Thursday, using the November 1st options, got a seller of the November 1st 20 puts for $3.95, and they decided to hedge themselves just in case volatility collapses by purchasing the 15 puts for 40 cents. That gives us a credit of $3.55 as long as VIX is above 1645 and they hold it to expiration. They'll make something off of it. Needless to say, they're hoping we are in the 20s. But that's a good trade because that trade was done with VIX under 16 at the time. Very, very timely trade. On Friday, today, actually, pretty interesting trade here. I really, really like this one. Somebody bought the November 1st 14.5 calls, and they paid $2.99 for those. And this was when VIX was at 1731. This was actually before the market opened. It was around 6 a.m. Chicago time that this trade goes off. And I always like it when I see non-standard trading hour trades. So they bought 150 of these. They sold 450, or three times as many of the calls they bought. They sold 450 of the 19 calls for 93 cents each. That ends up being a cost of 20 cents for each 1-by-3 call spread. And as I like to call it, the sweet spot, or the spot where this trade makes money. Needless to say, right at 19 would be the very best case scenario, but it breaks even between 1470 and 2115. I would be a little bit concerned about this trade overshooting to the upside. And then finally, maybe good, maybe bad. Time will tell on this one, but somebody taking the other side of the volatility spike today with VIX between 1870 and 1890 in 3 different lots. Somebody sold 350 of the October 25th 18 calls and bought the same number of the October 25th 38 calls. They took in $1.19 credit for this. And honestly, unless the risk manager made them do this, I think buying those 38 calls is a big old waste of money.
The 38. So I was just going to say, what are you getting from those 38s?
We haven't seen 38 this year, I don't think.
Out of curiosity, what did they pay for those 38s? Do you have that there?
16 cents.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
15 and 16 cents. So, but I rounded it up to 16 cents.
That's not giving them away, but wow. Yeah. 16 cents for the 38s. That's probably the old tap on the shoulder saying, hey, you need something. But yeah, that's interesting. Very interesting stuff as usual, Mr. Rhodes. You always find the nuggets out there for us. We appreciate your efforts on our listeners' behalf. What about you folks, listeners? You folks either live or listen after the fact. Any of those resonate with you? Any of those particular weekly trades? You like buying those 38? You like that 1838 vertical? That's just such weird strikes. How people construct these things at the end of the day is half of the fun. Speaking of the fun, man, we're up to some fun out there this week in the mothership VIX options. Like I said already today, we are already today almost surpassing yesterday's paper. And yesterday was a banger. 1.1 million contracts on the tape right now. In fact, let me see if I re-rack it. We're at 1.16, so we have surpassed yesterday's paper now. Today is officially the busiest day of the week. 1.16 million. That's nothing to sneeze at, listeners. That gets us out there. Let's see what the top 5 are today. The big dog today, 76,000 of the OC 25. So maybe we're back in a little bit of upside mood, I should say. We shall see. Number 2, 65,000 of, again, the meatball's favorite, of the OC 20s. Maybe some other folks thought that was a bargain as well. Maybe picking up 65,000 of those bad boys. Number 3, 60,000 of the NOV 17 puts. So some puts making the tape today. Number 4, the OC 17 puts as well. 58,000 of those. Maybe we got some put rolling action going on there. Number 5 today, 55,000 of the OC 16 puts. So quite the smattering of paper in our top 5 today. Yesterday, also a banger day. 1.14 million on the tape yesterday. The big dog yesterday, 88,886 to be precise, of the OC 16 puts, followed by number 2, about 80,000 of the November 15 puts. Number 3, 79,000 of the OC 15 puts. We got a put palooza going on here, listeners. Number 4, our first call, 65,000 of the NOV 23s. And rounding out the top 5 yesterday, 55K of the NOV 14 puts. So again, Very interesting and sizable paper. Wednesday can't quite hold a candle to yesterday and today. 597,000 contracts on the tape. So the market just taking a bit of a breather, a bit of a hiatus on Wednesday before they reset for the end of the week. The big dog on Wednesday, 24, almost 25,000 of the OCK 16 puts. Following number 2, 23,000 of the OCK 17 puts. Number 3, 21,000 of the OCK 20s. Number 4, 19, almost 20,000 of the NOV 17 puts. And number 5, 19,000 of the NOV 16 puts. Looks like a bit of a put vertical going up in November there. Tuesday, back at it, listeners, 907,000 contracts on the tape. No rest for the wicked this week. The big dog on Tuesday, 74,000 of the October 16 puts. All this put paper, and yet only 2 puts can make it into our top 10 each week. It is fascinating, listeners. Number 2, 38,000 of the OCK 19 calls. Number 3, 35,000 of the OCK 20s. Number 4, 30,000 of the OCK 18 puts. And rounding out the top 5 on a very interesting Tuesday, 30,000 as well of the, I think I said OCK, I meant NOV. NOV 18 puts on number 4. And number 5, 30,000 of the November 45 calls. Do we have a funky risk reversal / collar / strangle going up here in November? 1845, listeners. 18 puts and 45 calls. You like that? If that's the case, that's another one of those kind of head-scratching strikes there. And then Monday, also no slouch. Remember, we came into Monday. A lot of people were expecting vol to pop off. Saw that a little bit in the morning, then not quite. 805,000 contracts on the tape on Monday. The big dog on Monday, 71,000 of the NOV 15 puts, followed by number 2, 56,000 of the NOV 14 puts. Number 3, 52,000 of the October 25 calls. Number 4, 45,000 of the October 16 puts. And rounding out the top 5 on a fairly active Monday, 33,000 of the November 27 calls. Mr. Meatball, a lot to unpack here. Just a explosion, a hurricane, a tsunami of paper, call it what you will out there. Very active pretty much every day this week with the exception of Wednesday. What trades, what trends really caught your eye in VIX options this week, sir?
Yeah, I mean, they've just been really active. A good mix of put and call buying. Today, again, there's plenty of volume in VIX. You mentioned those 20 calls going up. The biggest trade we've seen today, this is kind of interesting. They bought the Jan 20 calls 35,000 times and bought 35,000 the NOV 17 puts. There's just some huge today in particular. There's some huge block orders going up. The OCK 18 puts, 17 puts, OCK 28 calls. The back and forth, the amount of paper going up every day has been pretty impressive.
It is quite the impressive amount of paper. Let's see if some of our Vol ETP friends can hold a candle to what the mothership is up to out there. And I guess it kind of depends what you mean by hold a candle. If you expect SVIX to rival VIX out there right now, then you probably have not been paying attention. SVIX not going to make that happen. SVIX, though, moving quite a bit. It was down 3 points as of a few minutes ago at a 24.60. If you racked it right now, it's at about 24.25, so giving up the ghost even more out there, listeners. So again, they are coming for SVIX as they're coming for this market now as well. The worm definitely turning. We are no longer mixed. We are fully red across the board. S&P off about 0.8% right now. The Dow finally turning red as well. So maybe that second leg, what they were waiting for to really put vol into higher gear for the weekend, the literal weekend risk, as we were just talking about earlier, maybe that's starting to make itself known out there. Either way, SVIX putting up some respectable numbers today. 3,400 contracts. The ADV also starting to look a little bit more respectable. It just hit 5,000 this week. Listeners, it's up about 500 contracts from this time last week. Again, that's not much. It's a rounding error for VIX. But for this product, that's a 10% increase in ADV. So that's nothing to sneeze at out there. In terms of top positions in SVIX, the big dog right now, 10,000. That's actually a lot for SVIX. 10,000 of the OCK 20 puts are up right now for size number 1 in SVIX. Let's just take a quick gander and see when those bad boys were open. Looks like they've been opening them on the 26th, and they put up about 4,000 of them, 3,000 of them on the 3rd, and 3,000 more on the 27th. So they've been slowly accumulating that position. Looks like they were selling them for around 75 cents at least to start out there. So intriguing stuff blasting away on the 20 puts. We have talked about that use case in the past. People getting a little bit more willing to start selling puts out there in SVIX, given what they've seen out there, the performance that it can threaten that 35 strike not too long ago out there. I know when we first broke 17 and 20 in the other direction going up, every one of them other was overriding the hell out of all their calls because that was just an unheard of level for SVIX. But yeah, now we're seeing people writing puts on the 20 strike. Kind of interesting out there. The people may be willing to get a little SVIX put to them around 20. A bit of a change of mindset out there, but not a surprising one at the end of the day. And then let's go on to, well, before we do that, I know Mr. Rhodes, you are our resident SVIX champion out here. What are your thoughts on SVIX moving a bit again and also giving up some of the ghosts this week?
I had double muted myself because I was being yelled at by the women in my household. Oh. Well, I apologize. So no, SVIX, for full disclosure, I covered all my short calls. So now I'm just, and I did that today. So I'm kind of naked long it. I did take a look to see if you could apply one of those stock repair trades with favorable prices, and you really can't. So I'm just kind of stuck in this thing right now. I saw where it looked like there was a big buyer of the over the course of a few days of the November 28 calls. They were paying over $2 for them earlier this week. Now they're paying like, it looks like they're adding to the position today. Like so the open interest was a little under 1,600, a little over 1,600 has traded, but the trades that created that open interest were purchases. So and it looks like they're buying again today. So I think somebody anticipates a volatility crush between now and mid-November.
There we go. Mr. Rhodes buying back his calls. Mr. Meatball, are you still overwriting the heck out of SVIX? Have you been buying yours back as well?
I unwound it. I put it on. I made a nice gain on it, and I didn't like what I was seeing out of the vol complex, so I unwound my SVIX position, and I'm going to be looking to reestablish.
Maybe that's you writing those 20 puts out there. I don't know. I'm just floating it as a trial balloon out there. But what we thought coming into this week was going to be the big vol story of the week until, of course, the events of the weekend interceded was this reverse split. We've been talking about this for so long. Man, UVIX was just languishing, circling the bowl out there. We were waiting for something. We finally got the news of our reverse split. It finally went into effect this week. Like myself, many of you out there were looking for more, maybe 15 or 20 to 1. We ended up getting 10 for 1, but you know what? Our patience is rewarded. We all wanted a 40 handle in UVIX, listeners, and guess what? What the reverse split did not give us, the market has bestowed upon us, listeners. It is the giver of gifts, even though it already is gone. We were, ever so briefly, this new reverse split UVIX is a wild stallion. You can't climb on it. You can't even come to grips with it. You just got to hold on and pray for dear life on this thing. It was at 41 a minute or two ago, and we just racked it up. It's back now to 39.5. This thing is just whipsawing all over the place, up $7 and change just today. Obviously, on the week, it's up explosively because it has reverse split, listeners, but just an insane beast. So for a brief moment, we had it, listeners, a 40-plus handle, a 41 handle out there in UVIX today. So the gift we all wanted, the market gods bestowed on us today. Actually, it was 40.90 technically, so about a 41 out there. So my goodness, what a beast this thing is now, listeners. Putting up some numbers out there as well. We have about 11,000 contracts on the tape today, so that compares, I should say, pretty favorably to the ADV, which is 15,000. That's up 1,000 this week, so go figure. You reverse split this thing to a number people actually want to trade again, and people will trade it again. Go look how that works. It's not rocket science at the end of the day. The big position out in UVIX right now, these are all pre-split adjusted, so let's not even bother. Speaking of pre-split adjusted, listen, I had quite the saga of my own on some UVIX puts that I let go through the reverse split just as a bit of an experiment. I wanted to see what all you folks were, the things we counseled you all not to do, I did this week. Purely for science. And it was a fun learning experience. Fun was had by all. I ended up making a fair amount, which is funny on this, given where UVIX is now. But it was quite the ordeal. I think I'll relate it to you on coming up on Options Oddities in a little bit, because it's a saga in and of itself. And I know the Rock Lobster wants to hear it as well. So fun stuff out there. But yeah, short answer to that question, listeners. Don't do that. Don't let your positions roll through the reverse splits or whatever the corporate action is in these products, because these Franken products, they don't play nicely with these things, let alone the brokers. You think in 2023, brokers would have this process down to a science. It'd be very easy to change and adjust your orders. No, none of that is the case. It is still a ridiculously antiquated process. You will have to pick up the phone. So if you don't want that to be you, then avoid that at all costs. But I did it for you folks. I did it for science. I will relate that saga a little bit later coming up on Options Oddities. But let's start with you, Mr. Meatball. This is the day we've all been hoping for, waiting for. A 40 handle in SVIX was just, UVIX was just a bonus, a cherry on top. But this is insane. We still have hearing tales of brokers. I experienced this yesterday. I haven't tried putting any today. We're still hearing stories of brokers kicking out single leg options orders even, just saying, hey, we're not touching this thing yet. We can't come to grips with it. What are your thoughts on this new beast that is the post-split UVIX, sir?
Yeah, I mean, it is going to fly around. It's going to be a lot of fun to trade. I'm looking forward to being involved with this thing. They need more lower strikes right now. The strikes only go to 15. I need them to get to 5.
Yeah, they had some they stopped at 29 in some months yesterday. I noticed that. I was like, what are you doing?
Yeah, this thing is going to be a beast. I'm really going to enjoy trading it. I mean, I am like ecstatic.
Have you managed to get any trades off in this? Because I know it's hit or miss for people.
Yeah, I have. So established some hedged short positions. The hedge is working today, but not so much the short UVIX.
I got a little big for my britches. I tried to put on some flies after the split, and that was no bueno. But then I even said, okay, let me simplify things, and I put some single legs on, and all of those were even kicked back. So a lot of the platforms just couldn't handle it. So yeah, it's crazy times out there. A trader beware out there in UVIX land. Listen, Mr. Rhodes, your thoughts as well. UVIX finally at the level we all wanted. Maybe this is a little bit careful what you wish for at the end of the day. I get it. It's fun. We're all going to have a lot of fun with this. But, man, this is quite the wild beast we have unleashed on the volatility markets, sir. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, that's an understatement. I'm looking at when you said people are having issues getting executed. I can see that. I'm looking at, I'm going to use one of those old trader terms. I am looking at spreads that you could drive a Big Mac truck through. I like where was the one that I was just looking at? The at the money, the 41 call. It's got a 90-cent spread right now, the ones that expire next week. But man, you go to the in the money options and the spreads are like $2 and $3. So you can't even, take get a deep in the money option that can give you longer short exposure without getting hit on getting in, getting hit on getting out, and a lot of time value in them as well, which just makes option trading very difficult. But these spreads are frightening.
Yeah, they're crazy. I'm curious, any of you pro folks, if any of you folks have dipped your toes in these waters. They are tumultuous. They are turbulent waters. So tread carefully out there. But this is what we wanted. We wanted a 40 handle in UVIX. We have all gotten what we wanted right now. Can we handle it? Can we come to grips with this beast? 7 handles in a day? This is what we wanted, listeners. There we go. Yeah, this is going to be a fascinating tale for as long as this lasts until it erodes inevitably back down to 1.5 again, and we all say hit the reset button out there. But yeah, this is a wild one. Again, I'll be talking about my my UVIX saga with some puts coming up in a little bit on Options Oddities. Let's keep rolling right now. I don't know if I shouldn't. I won't reveal the results, but a surprisingly popular ETP out there right now, UVXY. With all this headlines around UVIX, I thought for sure everyone would be loving UVIX. It was UVXY is getting all the love right now at a 1780 right now, up about 1.7 points on the week. Obviously, it got higher intraday. Let's see, what was the high? Almost 1870 out there, so we're nearly a point below the highs right now. So things are just whipsawing all over the place. 231,000 contracts on the tape. That's a pretty robust day, especially when you consider the ADV is 144, and that's up 16,000 on the week. So UVXY putting up some numbers. So yeah, it's just a crazy time. Mr. Meatball, do you have any time for UVXY anymore now that UVIX is back at a 40? Have you washed your hands of this? So what are your thoughts on UVXY here?
I mean, I happened to scoop up some ones expiring today, right before this vol pop. So I'm feeling pretty good about it. But now that UVIX is reverse split, why would you trade UVXY? Why would I trade a 1.5x that's $14 when I can trade a 2x that's over 40?
That's what I've been saying.
I'm with you 100%.
Wait till you hear the results. I'm going to read to you a little bit. You're going to be surprised like I was. There's a little tease out there. Mr. Rhodes, are you still a fan of UVXY, or are you like myself in the meatball? You've moved on to greener and or completely wilder and more insane pastures in UVIX?
I never really was a big fan of the double long one. Being leveraged long the volatility curve. I know it works every once in a while, but which one is my favorite. And if I'm ever doing anything with one of the long funds, it's going to be VXX, and it's going to be, putting on something that is going to benefit when that thing just keeps grinding lower. You have lower volatility in VXX, so being bearish on it is a lot easier to deal with than dealing with UVXY or UVIX. Heaven forbid you sold a call spread against it yesterday. You're getting killed today, and it's going to cost you an arm and a leg to get out of it. And also, I kind of like how SVIX, when it's working, it's grinding. It's not spiking in my direction. So I get chances to opportunistically sell calls against my position. I just wouldn't do the same thing with with UVIX.
Yeah, VXX definitely more of a grinder than UVIX is an explosion, and VXX is a nice subtle grind. Speaking of VXX, we'll wrap up the ETP segment there, listeners. VXX 25.60 as of a few minutes ago, up about a little over about 2.3 points. So a nice move, over 2 points, but also not the 7+ handles we're seeing out there in UVIX, just whipping around like a beast out there. Putting up some numbers today, 136,000. So again, it's a lot more than the ADV, which is 108,000, which, again, that's up 6,000 on the week as well. So everything moving in the right direction volume-wise out there. Again, we're still a long way away from the days when VXX used to threaten VIX and sometimes usurp it on the volume front. We used to call those tail wagging the dog days. I haven't seen one of those in a long time. I don't think we ever will again, just given all the shenanigans that Barclays has been up to out there. In terms of top positions in VXX right now, 35,000, almost 36,000. Of the OCT25 calls is number one. But I want to get to some of your thoughts and also the surprising results of our polls. Let's get to it right now, a little bit of the old volatility voicemail.
It's time to share your thoughts and opinions with your fellow volatility traders. It's time to check the volatility voicemail. Make your voice heard by dialing 779-669-4VOL. Posting a comment on the optionsinsider.com, sending an email to questions@theoptionsinsider.com, or posting your questions to twitter.com/options or facebook.com/theoptionsinsider.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Vol voicemail. Let's check in really quickly with our pro folks out there. Nichols is talking about wanting to trade these. I don't know if he has or not yet. Option God, no, he's been too scared to get in. He's wanted to wait. I get it. It could be a little intimidating right now. Options Queen says she's not trading this one right now yet. Z3 says no. I see the Flowmaster lurking in there. I'm not sure the Flowmaster is slinging any UVIX out there or not. I suppose we'll find out. Speaking of finding things out there, listeners, I said we had the Mr. VIXologist on our Pro Q&A hot seat earlier this week, and it sparked an interesting conversation about the various vol ETPs out there. So we thought we would put it to you folks as our question of the week this week. Quite simply, what is your preferred volatility ETP? This one's been flying fast and furious. A lot of people have a lot of heated opinions on the vol ETP space. Go figure. And we gave you 4 choices: SVIX, so our inverse friend, UVXY, a levered but still a neutered levered product, certainly when compared to UVIX, which is one of the choices, as well as VXX. And right now, with about a day left out there, we gave you a little extra time because we started it later this week, listeners. 38.2% of you are choosing UVXY. You people are writing in for UVXY. There's a lot of love out there for UVXY, which quite frankly flummoxes me, especially when you have UVIX now returned to its former glory, such as it was out there. I mean, this is, if you want the levered product, why do you go for the neutered levered product? I don't know. I'm missing something there. But 38.2% of our audience loving themselves some UVXY. 27.6% going for the once and future Dr. VIX's choice, the SVIX. 22% for VXX, so the more quiet, draggy, grindy kind of name. And bringing up the rear, maybe it's just too hot to handle for people. Only 12.2% choosing UVIX. Mr. Meatball, are you as surprised as I am that our audience clearly by 3x choosing the neutered flavor of levered ETP, sir?
Yeah, I don't fully get it. I don't really understand it. I guess, maybe they just they just don't know. Maybe it's just a lack of understanding of the situation.
Yeah, I don't get it either, but that's what we got going on right now. If you don't agree with that, listeners, you got a little extra time. You're lucky. We got an extra day or so post-podcast. So if you're listening on demand, as I know a lot of you are, get in there, make your voice heard. If you want to pop UVIX to the top of the list, get it up over 12.2%. Have at it. Oh, Nichols saying he's having the same problem. He tried to put some orders in, and his orders were rejected as well. So, yeah, trader beware on UVIX right now. Brokers seem like they're having a hard time. They're kicking multi-leg orders out, I know that, and even single leg. Some of them just can't, their systems can't handle it, which, again, kind of shocking in 2023 that I'm saying that, but that's where we are, listeners. Speaking of where we are, we have come to that point, the point we've all been looking forward to and or dreading, the most difficult, the most dangerous segment of the show. It is time for the crystal ball.
It's time to peer into the future and reveal what the volatility gods hold in store. It's time to look into the crystal ball.
All right, listeners, and again, we are just whipsawing all over the place here, listeners. Coming into the end of the show, I said it seemed like we were trending all into the red, and we were, and now it seems like we're back to mixed. Dow up about 0.1%, S&P off about 0.5%, the NASDAQ off about 1.25%. We were down about 0.8% in the S&P. So it does seem, at least for now, we may be rebounding a little bit, as we've seen before. This could be just a head fake. Wait 5 minutes, and the market will be moving in some other crazy direction. I say all this because it was myself and the Rock Lobster on the show last week, and coming into the end of the show, we have VIX right around a 1970, over 3 handles away from all of our closest prognostications. We were feeling frothy, but a little bit less vol this time last week. None of us obviously had the horrific events of the weekend coming in. Of course, literal weekend risk these days. Go figure. It's going to happen. I was at a 1628, and the Rock Lobster was at a 1585. No joy there. Looking at some of the listener suggestions, the only thing even remotely close looks like we had a 17 handle for our options queen. She'd been known to be prescient, but even she was nearly 2 handles off, so 1780. So, yeah, no joy for any. A lot of 16 handles, some 17. So everyone was kind of feeling what we were feeling last week, 16 to 17 range. The Rock Lobster was even lower, 1585. And, yeah, spoiler alert, not there. Of course, this is another one of those crazy weeks where if you picked a moment, threw a dartboard at some time during the week and froze VIX, you had a chance of being right. Everyone had a chance of being right. We whipped all over the place this week, listeners. So intriguing. So it got down about 15.5 just yesterday. So our prognostications were looking pretty good yesterday. Again, 24 hours an eternity in the world of vols. So all that a long way around to saying, Mr. Rhodes, you did not have a chance to be wrong last week. So I'll give you the choice. Do you want to go first or do you want to go last?
I'm gonna take first because I never get to go first.
Oh, go for it, sir.
I'm shooting for 1850. I think we drift a little bit lower from here. We haven't reacted much to what's going on in the Middle East yet. I know oil's up a bunch and we're having a tough day today, but I got this question at the end of a graduate class last night, and I just don't in the current situation, I'm not particularly worried about the Middle East. Now that doesn't mean that it starts to blow up, but I think a lot of bigger players, Iran tries to back away from Hamas after this happened. I just feel like I don't feel like this is going to end up being some sort of proxy war with Iran, China, Russia, and us getting into it over there. That it'll kind of fade like it had like a lot of these skirmishes have in the past. It was just a lot nastier than it's ever been, or it has been in some time.
Well, let's hope you are correct, sir. I think we all could use a little bit of cessation of hostility. Last thing the world needed this past weekend was, hey, let's roll some more tanks. Yes, hopefully you are correct, and this is hopefully a very violent or very horrific tempest in a teapot out there. I went next. I'm going to be nice. Meatball wasn't on last we got this. I'll let him have a chance to go last. I was having a hard time with this. I had a full point range in my head of where I want it to be. I ended up coming down on still pretty frothy this time a week from now, 19.25. So that comes to pass. That means we got some, maybe Mr. Rhoads' prediction does not come to pass. So I guess we shall see. 19.25, it's hard to maintain that, but I don't know. I'm feeling that. I was feeling that. All right, Mr. Meatball, I saved you for last, sir. What are you feeling for this time next week?
You said 19.25?
I did, sir.
What did Russell say?
18.5.
18.5.
Oh, 17.25. No, I'm sorry.
Wow.
I'm sorry.
You mean 1771? Is that what you meant?
Yes.
There we go. I was going to say, where's the palindromic fun? Excellent year. Is it an excellent vol prediction? I guess we'll find out, listeners. Got quite the wide market out here. 1771 on the downside. Mr. Rhoads playing the Goldilocks seat this week, and I'm playing the Russell Rhoads game this week at 19.25. I might be reaching a little bit. I admit that, but I don't know. I was feeling that. I was feeling between 18.75 and 19.25. I didn't want to go too much closer to Mr. Rhoads, so I gave him a little bit of breathing room. Let's see. We got a 24 in the chat. Oh my goodness! Wow. Our folks are feeling it out. If you're listening live, get your prognostications. And if you're listening after the fact, listeners, then make sure to get those in because you too can win. Fabulous. Getting a little harder out there now. We're moving around a bit, but if you two can come in with 1/10 of a point, you too can win fabulous prizes. Man, I thought I was optimistic on vol at a 19.25. 24.60? Is that what that says? Yeah. Wow, 24.60. You're feeling it, sir. All right. Hey, I don't feel as bad now. That music means we have come to the end of another epic journey through the world of vol. Speaking of journeys through vol, I know, Mr. Rhoads, you will be going to RMC next week. Mr. Meatball, of course, will be going because it's in your backyard. We'll have to set up some sort of... I do see the Flowmaster in the chat as well. He's going next week as well. So we're going to have all sorts of boots on the ground at RMC. So maybe we'll have to do... Mark, are you going to be on the show next week? Should we have you do a beam in with like an update from the show?
Yeah, I'll gladly do the show next week for sure.
All right, so we can get some thoughts on what you're hearing from RMC. We'll have a guest next week, but Mr. Rhoads, if you want to beam in with your thoughts as well, if you're going to be around, if you want to share.
I'm going to be on the flight. I was just checking my flights when you said that, and I'm going to be on my flight home at that time.
All right, so if you want to send any thoughts or other things that are catching your eye, presentations that you thought were awesome, we could always share it on your behalf. Or we could do it on another show down the road, too. I think we'll also get the Flowmaster's thoughts maybe next week on the option block. So stay tuned for that, listeners. A lot of fun coming from RMC over the course of now. Even if I can't be there, if the cat is away, the mice will still play. So look forward to that, listeners. And Mr. Rhoads, before we go, if folks want to see your thoughts on all things vol, where should they go? What should they do?
Oh, my Substack I put up every weekend, and if I do anything midweek, we're getting into earnings season, so I've got a lot of work to do this weekend on all of that, just as far as previews go for stocks that have really great option markets that are reporting, and we're really going to start seeing that this coming week. And other than that, I'm going and attending conferences.
There you go. You can be our man on the scene for the network, sir. You're hitting all the fun vol. You went to the Vol Summit in New York a few weeks ago. Now going to the Southern Volatility Mecca. You're our options man about town. I get to stay here in the studio and just direct traffic. It's nice.
Yeah, and I might get to go to EQD Europe.
Oh, nice. There you go.
Yeah.
Mending
all kinds
fences.
of politics there.
Mending fences over there. I like it. All right. Check them out. In the meantime, listeners, you know where to find them. At Russell, 2 S's, 2 L's, RHOADS, all one word on the old Twitters. And Mr. Meatball, what can the folks look forward to coming from you this week with RMC? You're going to have cutting analysis, your favorite presentations. What can folks look forward to from the land of the pit this week?
Absolutely. I'll be breaking down everything I learned. You just go to optionpit.com and check out what I'm seeing and what I'm coming up with. Make sure to check it out.
Have you discovered the magic of selling 5% out of the money puts, sir? I got a feeling you're going to hear that once or twice over the coming week. Have you heard about selling a put in the S&P 500? It's a magical thing. I guess we'll find out what they have up their sleeves this coming week at RMC. That's going to do it for us on Vol Views. It's going to do it for all of you on the on-demand side for our broadcast week. Thank you for joining us throughout the week. Hope you had a fun, a profitable, a safe trading week. Hopefully this vol and this UVIX beast didn't buck you too hard out there this week. If you're on the pro side, hang out. We'll be back in a little bit. I'll break down my UVIX put saga. I think he was sending me his fills. The Rock Lobster he's got scumbagged to death on garbage calls and only. So we'll talk about that. All sorts of fun. All the trades, the unusual activity we're watching for the week. All sorts of fun coming up on Options Oddities. So stay tuned. If you're in the chat, hang out. We'll be back in a little bit. If you're listening after the fact, enjoy that on the old Pro podcast feed. Of course, if you want to join that fun, theoptionsinsider.com/pro. Welcome to all of our new members, by the way. I always forget to do that. Welcome to all you folks out there. And then, of course, we're back again on Monday with the old OB all the way through to next week, maybe with some live updates from RMC on the next episode of Volatility Views. Stay safe out there, everybody.
You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.